Good afternoon. This is JT Cardin, your Arizona luxury realtor. I hope you're having a great day because this day is hot. Surprise, surprise, Phoenix, Arizona isn't always supposed to be hot. Yes, it is, but not this hot in the middle of March. It is currently 89 degrees. Actually doesn't feel too bad because I'm sitting in the shade of a beautiful tree and there's some sprinklers going behind me, cooling off the air a little bit. But let me tell you, it's toasty. So seriously, pray for us because this is way hotter than it's supposed to be this time of year. The good news is it's still somewhat hiking weather. If you go in the morning, it's 50, 60 degrees, so still not too bad. And today I'm going to be reviewing one of my favorite small hikes here in the valley. Now the hike I want to review today is called the Hieroglyphic Trail. It's a great little hike in the Superstition Mountains. They are kind of the primary mountains here in the Phoenix area. They're all going to be the mountain range east of Mesa. They kind of stretch for quite a while actually, going from kind of Apache Junction, Mesa area, all the way out to Globe. A lot of really, really cool stuff to do in there. Quite a varied hiking situation. You can go desert like this one where you're not leaving saguaros. If you get high enough up in there, you will reach oak and eventually pine trees. And some of you may be wondering, why are they called the Superstition Mountains? Well, that name actually came around in the 1860s from local ranchers here. They were having fun basically with what the natives believed were the Thunder Mountains. They had a lot of superstitions that that's where their thunder god resided because they would sporadically hear aggressive rumblings coming from high up in the mountains. We don't know what it actually was. I haven't seen any thunder gods up in there, but it is a cool name, and that superstition has really kind of become exaggerated in the past 100 years with the story of the Lost Dutchman, which, if you don't know, it's a fun little one about a Dutch miner who went into the superstitions, found a piece of gold that was the purest piece of gold that had ever been found in Arizona, and it was a big chunk of it. But before he could go back, theoretically, before he could go back and mine it all out, he was killed, and no one knows where his treasure was because supposedly he had mined some of it out and stored it somewhere. So that only adds to the superstition of these mountains. This hike, not really a whole lot of tie-in with that. It does tie into the history of the region though, as while it's called the Hieroglyphic Trail, the natives, the Hohokam, who used to live here, left quite a few petroglyphs in this part of the superstitions. Common belief is that this was kind of a cultural and water source throughout the year, and they marked it as such, and with that much heavy traffic you can see quite a few really cool petroglyphs on this one spot. To start off the review, I'm going to go ahead and get started with the road to the trailhead. Now, most of the hikes around here, there's quite a bit of dirt road that you have to go on to get to the trailhead. Your adventure starts before you even hit the trail. And that's because a lot of trails, especially in the superstitions, are very remote. This one, very different, because I was actually concerned at how many houses we were still driving by, and then suddenly there's the trailhead. You're literally a couple hundred feet from the nearest residential lot. That being said, it is a super fun hike. It's great for beginners or people who aren't really avid hikers. I know not everyone enjoys doing rim-to-rim hikes like me and my wife do. So we showed up around 4:30 and we were out by 6 with sunset being at 6:30. So great time of day to be there. We really enjoyed it. And let's get started with the review of the hike itself. Now, at the risk of sounding like a nerd, I am going to point out at this point that this trail is actually misnamed. They call it the Hieroglyphic Trail, and it should be called the Petroglyph Trail. There is a difference. Hieroglyphs are specifically referring to the written iconographic language of the Egyptians, where you have pictures, but they're used in sequence to express ideas, where petroglyphs are just pictures drawn onto rocks. That's as simple as they are. There's no hidden language in these. It's just a purely representative drawing of what was going on in that moment or what they were thinking about in that moment. No language to be unraveled with it. So really, this should be called the Petroglyph Trail rather than hieroglyphic. There's my little nerd out moment for this video. Now, to start off the hike, we're at the trailhead, we're at the parking lot. You'll notice that there aren't any permanent bathrooms, and I can't tell you why. I don't know. Gold Canyon has them in other spots that are even more remote, at the very least permanent pit toilets. But here you get 2 whole porta potties. So good luck with that. I hope it's not busy when you go, because otherwise it's going to be rough to start. You go up to the start of the trailhead. There's a very sun-worn sign that gives you a very brief introduction to the superstitions and to the area. Really cool. I always suggest that people read these infographics. It really gives you some good insight. Then you're going to go ahead and go through a green gate and start your hike. Why the green gate is there is to actually help with the cattle grazing that goes on in the area. I can imagine a few of you are confused why cattle would be grazing in the middle of the desert, and I don't know. Clearly they do well, because I've seen cattle in some of the most remote parts of the desert that I've ever been to. Like, seriously, hours of very crappy dirt roads away from the nearest house, remote. Please remember to close it behind you. It keeps the cows from wandering into the neighborhood, and I imagine the neighbors would not be thrilled about that. From the trailhead and the parking lot, you'll see really the only super aggressive climb that you'll be doing on this hike. You go up a very mild series of switchbacks to get to the top of the kind of ridge line that's right there by the trailhead. It's pretty easy. As you can see from this video, it's nothing particularly dramatic. There are a couple of step-ups during this part of it, but for the most part, pretty level, pretty steady. Just kind of work your way up at your leisure, and you'll get to the top soon enough. Now you've worked your way up to the top of these very mild switchbacks, and you'll notice that the trail is actually pretty straight and fairly flat. You've got some great views now, so take them in. You've got great views of pretty much the whole spectrum of what most people see as the superstitions. You can see Flatiron off to the west. You can see Superstition Peak kind of ahead of you. And then over to the right, you'll see where the trail goes up, the Peralta Trail goes up to Weaver's Needle. It's a really nice view. Take a moment to drink it in, and then keep going on your way. As you'll see in the rest of this video here, it's, again, pretty mild, nothing crazy. You got a wash off to your left as well. It's a fairly mild elevation gain on this hike. I think you go up something like 500 feet total, and you've already gone up about 100 of it. So don't stress too much, just keep going on your way. Now, as you can see in this video, there are some rocks that you need to be aware of on the path. They're nothing serious, they're fist-sized at best. Just be aware of them, don't take your eyes off the trail for too long, and you'll be fine. They start about the top of the ridge line and go until you hit the petroglyphs. And as you start climbing in elevation, you'll notice that you're starting to get closer and closer to the mouth of the canyon. This is Hieroglyphic Canyon, named after, you guessed it, Hieroglyphic Spring, which is where the hieroglyphs, petroglyphs, are that you're going to go and see. You'll eventually, on this trail, keep going, and then around mile 1, you're going to dip down into a little riparian area. It's going to get a little bit greener. If you go and it's a little bit warmer, you'll feel the humidity there quite a bit more. You'll pop back up the other side, and then you'll essentially be almost there. Once you get into the canyon, you'll notice a lot of really cool rock formations on either side. It is a beautiful canyon. I love how the rocks formed here from all of the kind of volcanic activity that happened a long, long, long time ago. And I can see why the natives would have loved staying in here. And finally, right as you're about to get to the end of your hike, you'll notice that suddenly the trail kind of disappears and you're left with a kind of rock escarpment. It's really not that big of a deal. All the rocks on this side leave you with steps that are pretty manageable, I think all within building code compliance, which is great. I'm glad Mother Nature got that memo. However, Mother Nature did not get the memo on the backside of this hill going down to the spring area, where you'll notice that there are a couple of drops that are a little bit farther. I don't think any of them are more than maybe 4 feet. But if you look around a little bit, you'll notice that there are footholds and other ways to get down where you're not having to drop more than 2 feet at a time. It's pretty straightforward. And as you reach that spot, you'll see the rocks slope down pretty dramatically and then fall off. And on the other side of that drop off there, you'll see a little bit of water and then the petroglyphs right there. This trail does keep going, so make a point of stopping here unless you want to go on a much more intense adventure that I recommend only for very seasoned hikers / mountaineers. My wife, mother, and oldest daughter and I all did it spontaneously a few years ago. We were hiking up on the ridgeline above where the Hieroglyphic spring is. We ran out of water about halfway through our hike, which was roughly where this trail intersects with it, really high up in the mountains there. And since we didn't want to die, we bailed down through Hieroglyphic Canyon. So if you see a few people gathered around, that's probably where you're supposed to be. And you'll notice on the rock kind of formation on the other side of that creek bed, that's where all of the petroglyphs are. And you'll see quite a variety of them. They're, I think, really pretty. They clearly spent a lot of time here drawing out stories. My favorite petroglyph of the bunch is this one here, where you can see what looks to be a mountain lion hunting down some mountain goats or bighorn sheep. I think it's cool. It's a little glimpse into the life of someone who lived here, 700 to 1000 AD, so 1,000 years ago, and what they were seeing, which was clearly wildlife being wildlife. You'll also notice petroglyphs of things like people, quite a few of the people. You'll see snakes, you'll see lizards. There are a couple of these interesting geometric patterns that I couldn't tell you anything about. I could tell you they're aliens, but I don't think that's what they really are. It's pretty. Take your time. Go up and take a close look at these petroglyphs, but please do not touch. Also, depending on how hot it is when you decided to do this hike, you may be tempted to interact in some way with the water that is in the spring bed here. I would urge you to please not touch this water. You will notice, if you take 10 seconds to look at it, that it is rather nasty. Most of this water sits for quite a while and lets a lot of things grow in that water that you probably don't want inside your body. I have, however, seen people drink the water in very dire situations, and I sincerely pray that you are not in a similar situation, because I am sure that they regretted it afterwards. I always recommend that people stay there for a little while. My wife and I were able to enjoy maybe 10 minutes of our time there with no one else in the area, so we were able to hear some of the wildlife come back. It was actually pretty quick when we started hearing birds. We heard about half a dozen birds going off. We started seeing the ground squirrels coming out of the cracks in the rocks. It felt like the desert was coming back alive again. And with that, I will wrap up this review. I really hope that you take the time to go and explore this hike. It is nice. The downside is there is very little shade on the trail itself. So just beware of that. Try not to go during the middle of the day because you will likely get pretty warm. But other than that, it's great. Like I said, 3 miles round trip, a few hundred feet elevation. I don't think you'll regret it. I hope you like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos to follow. You can also follow my Instagram page. I'm not as good about posting there as I am here. And if you have any questions or curiosity about the Arizona, specifically Phoenix area, reach out. It doesn't have to be real estate related. I know that's what I do, but it's not who I am. I would love to give you some tips on what to do if you've got 2 days here, if you've got kids to entertain, or if you're really into food, where should you go? If you're here for 3 days for spring training and you want to get a hike in. Love to give you some tips on that so that you don't regret your decisions by picking a hike that maybe was a little out of season or a little too intense for you. So reach out, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.